A big thank you to the Talk Python team who sponsor this episode of the podcast. If you want to get better at Python, now is an excellent time to take an online course. Whether you are just learning Python to delve into great topics like artificial intelligence, or you need to go deep into things like APIs and async, my friends at Talk Python Training have a top-notch course for you. Visit talkpython.fm/mind to find your next level and get a 10% discount. Also a big thank you to all my Patreons who support the Engineered Mind podcast. Hi and welcome to the Engineered Mind podcast. In this podcast, we cover topics such as engineering, artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and other interesting topics to educate, inspire, and engineer people's minds all around the world. I'm your host, Joseph, and for this episode of the podcast, I'm very excited to have Louis Bollinger on my show. Louis Bollinger co-founded the augmented reality startup Holo-Light. As CMO, he is responsible for marketing and deeply involved in partnerships and the company's strategy. He studied business administration in Munich and worked for Analog Devices and OSRAM before becoming an entrepreneur. Founded in 2015, Holo-Light specializes in immersive software and technologies. In Augmented and Virtual Reality, short XR, the XR expert sees a driver for global digitization and a new way of experiencing and interacting with 3D content. With interactive streaming for augmented reality, short ISAR, Holo-Light has developed a remote rendering software component to stream entire XR applications in real time. The technology can be easily integrated into apps and already empowers Holo-Light's in-house AR engineering software Aris in the industrial sector. In this podcast, we will also talk about how engineers can collaboratively visualize and edit their data-intensive 3D CAD models as holograms regardless of location. The augmented reality engineering space is complemented by Stylus XR, a high-precision XR input device in the form of a pen. Holo-Light operates its headquarters with over 40 employees in Ismaningen near Munich, Germany, and Innsbruck, Austria. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's my conversation with Louis Bollinger. So hi Louis, welcome to my podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you on my show. And what we want to start with, as always, can you give us an introduction to yourself? Who is Louis and what does he actually do?
Yeah, hi Yusuf, thank you very much and thanks for having me here. My name is Louis Bollinger. I'm one of 4 co-founders at Holo-Light, and Holo-Light is an augmented reality startup. We are located in Munich and in Innsbruck. And I myself, I studied business administration before I had to cancel my master and focus a bit more on the business. And that was in 2016. Since that time, we develop augmented reality software and technology.
That's great. Can you maybe walk us through the early days of Holo-Light? How did it get started? What was the initial idea of you guys, like starting even this company?
Yeah, so the 4 of us, we were students, and my 3 colleagues, they studied physics. We did not found the company inside a university format. We did it on our own, but we actually saw videos of Microsoft HoloLens, and which was introduced in 2015, and we were passionate about doing something on our own. We worked for large companies as working students, and we saw that sometimes processes are very strange, a bit boring, and they take time. And so we wanted to invest our power and energy into our own topic. We founded the company actually quite early, tried to get some devices from the US and thought about which use cases could be interesting. And as 2 of my colleagues, they have an engineering background, we very quickly came into this topic. And then the early days, they were quite interesting. We were at an accelerator program. One of our colleagues, he moved to the accelerator program, slept there, opened the door to customers in the morning just with a towel, things like that. And that was quite funny in the early days. But since that time, we also became a little bit more professional, but still have a lot of fun.
It's good that you mentioned professional because you also work with professional companies. We'll talk about that maybe in a few minutes. To get the audience a bit on the same level, some have more experience in AR, VR, and some have less. Can you maybe give us like an overview? What is even AR and what is VR, and what is the difference between these two?
Yeah, there's a scientific approach, which is a little bit difficult because the marketing stories of the large companies, they are a bit different sometimes. So there are several words like augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed and extended reality, but I want to focus on augmented and virtual reality. And augmented reality is actually a technology which allows you to still see your real environment, but additionally get extra information, 2D and 3D information. And you use usually smart glasses or you use smartphones and tablets to basically look through the glasses or the tablet and see your world plus 3D content. And when you look on virtual reality, you really dive into a fully immersive world, which means you have a headset, you cannot see your environment usually, and you have a virtual world, 3D objects in front of you, 360-degree around you. And these technologies, they are quite similar because the development process, working with a game engine, I don't know, preparing 3D content is very similar, but actually the use cases are a little bit different. And that's why I would say they are like a brother and sister, these two technologies, and you have to check for what use case you want to use it.
Mm-hmm. Can you maybe, I think it makes sense to talk about the biggest player in the market when it comes to AR as well as VR. Can you maybe give us a quick intro to that?
Yeah. I mean, the technology grew over the last, I would say, seven years. I remember in 2013, there was just one player in Germany, which was called Metaio. And everyone who wanted to do something in AR and VR, they worked with Metaio. But then Apple bought this company and suddenly they were gone. But that was at a time when other companies started to work on these processes. And the biggest ones nowadays from a hardware side are, for example, Microsoft providing the HoloLens 2 AR smart glasses, but also a few VR headsets in cooperation with hardware providers like Lenovo or HP. And there is Apple and Google as the big players. And these two companies, they provide let's say, technology components like the AR Kit and AR Core, which helps developers to create applications. And then you have to differentiate between the consumer market and the enterprise market. We are in the enterprise market and are actually a quite big player, I would say, and with more than 40, 50 people just focusing on this topic. And there, of course, in the consumer market, some people might know Niantic. Niantic Labs, the provider of Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go is some kind of AR application because as a user, you can see the Pokemon in your real world. But to be honest, also, most people don't use that feature because it's more simple to catch them if you don't activate the AR mode. So these are like big names, big players, and it's depending usually also in which direction you go as a company or as a user, and then you will find also some other names in the market.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, Luis. Thanks so much. What I also want to talk about is you quickly mentioned it, the B2C and B2B market. Can you maybe differentiate between those two? What is the difference, especially for your application, and what are your target customers, or what do they look like?
Yeah, so we focus on the B2B market. We focus on enterprises, usually companies from the automotive sector, mechanical engineering sector, or manufacturing sector. And I would say that these companies, usually the big corporates, they are also drivers for innovation. And that's why we worked quite early with them together and thought about use cases, thought about what can we do and how can we use that technology. And that's why a lot of the stuff is happening in the B2B sector. If you have a look on virtual reality, then you will realize that devices like PlayStation VR, Oculus Quest or Oculus Rift, and the HTC products, they are available also for consumers. And VR gaming and VR entertainment is, let's say, a bit closer to the consumer. It has to do also with the price point. VR headsets are a bit cheaper. With the gaming industry, they they kind of know how to use such a technology. And but also VR is obviously also used in a lot of enterprise use cases. That's why both technologies have a little bit different target groups. And if you look on the augmented reality side for consumers, here's, I would say, where we have like a lag today, because there's kind of the cheap smart glasses allowing you to have AR experiences. This is kind of a missing point nowadays. Mobile AR, smartphones, tablets is already quite big. And you could also say that solutions like Snapchat, they have kind of AR features because you have filters and you can see your environment, but it's not the AR where we want to go, and which will definitely come also in the next 1 to 3 years. And whenever you get or check the news, you have to check also what kind of direction is it. Is it a B2B application, B2C? And you will have to differentiate a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before we jump into the use cases where we can actually use AR technology, can you maybe quickly explain why did you decide for the HoloLens or HoloLens 2 and not choose any other device? What's the reason for that?
Yeah, so first of all, we are a software provider. We try to be compatible with several hardware devices, and we recommend the best hardware for the use case of our customers. And very often so far, it has been the HoloLens 2 as a device, as relevant features are quite good. If you use an AR device, it's very important that the device has a good tracking, which means the device is able to recognize your environment and put holograms, 3D content, stable in a room so that you can walk around it and interact very comfortable with it. It has to do with the field of view of the device. It has to be, it's also the technology infrastructure around it, which helps us and also customers to benefit from a hardware. But I also have to say that mobile phones or smartphones, tablets, they are also important to us because sometimes it's better to use a tablet because it's more simple to show it to others, and sometimes smart glasses is better because you can have a more immersive experience. You can work hands-free, for example, because you don't have to take or grab the smartphone or tablet. And so HoloLens is a really good device in the AR market. But it's really also here depending on your use case, on things like your return on investment, because smart glasses usually are a bit more expensive than handhelds. And so we, as a software company, want to be able to provide our software on a lot of platforms, and then let also the customer decide what's best for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Luis, can you maybe go a little bit into depth when it comes to CAD or CAE? For those who are not familiar with it, it's like computer-aided engineering and computer-aided design. And maybe walk us through some use cases that you have personally worked with.
Yeah, sure. So we were a bit crazy because we focused on the CAD market, which usually has complex 3D CAD files, and they have to be visualized now on a mobile device, while it has been already, or in the past, they run on performant workstations. So it was a bit challenging in the beginning, but as we have the background and as we see a huge benefit in this use case, where we did a lot of stuff. And I want to start by explaining how some of our customers use it. If we have a look on BMW, we work together with the guys located in Munich, and they have a prototyping use case. So far they had to produce a lot of prototypes manually. The costs were very high, and it took some time until they could get it and check designs like the things like, is the engine fitting inside the car body? How is the chassis looking like? Can we make a change here? Is it possible to assemble a part inside the car? Because this is very critical when it comes to the service use case afterwards. And so BMW has to take care about a lot of things And they usually a prototyping process takes a few years also for a car. And that's why they have a lot of prototypes. And it's obviously also expensive. And what they want to do is what they do now is that they visualize virtual prototypes, combine them with real existing hardware and prototypes, and see, for example, how do things fit. And what they are able to do is they can make now design decisions, concept evaluations up to 12 months earlier. And this is really, really good. And that's where they can benefit. And how do they do this? They use our software Aries, which is our augmented reality engineering space. And this software allows the visualization of their own 3D CAD models. So the import of the files is very simple. And here they go. They have the 3D model, and then they have several CAD features to work with the model. It's not about just making a design review and visualizing it. You need to be able to make some basic changes at least. And that's why we have the hierarchy tree with all individual parts, which you can highlight, hide, and move. We have features like the cross section, where you have a real-time possibility to slice through an object and get another perspective on it. And all these kinds of features, they are really important to these engineers. And there are also some small tricky things like topics like where's when I want to rotate an object, do I use the center or the pivot of the object? This has to do with the import settings and how do I save my 3D CAD models in my CAD system. And here we have workflows who are not that easy, I think, to address. But here's also where we have our strength. And we have other companies like BASF, a chemical company. They use our technology in factory planning, and they want to close the gap between the real virtual planning and the on-site situation inside the factory, which is not always the same. And so they benefit from visualizing machines, pipe systems inside the factory. So just two examples to mention.
Mm-hmm. Could you, if someone is not familiar, also before we jump into CAD itself, like the format, maybe let me quickly ask, is the system you're using, is it CAD format agnostic? Like, is it irrelevant which format I use, or is it like only specific for formats?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we have is we have native importers for some file formats. JT, for example, OBJ, GLTF, and I think FBX. And we have a converter pipeline for other file formats. We have our customers have the opportunity to use basically their own existing software to get the final or the right file format, which we are able to import, or they can use a converter pipeline like from Autodesk Forge, for example. They have a conversion service. Pixies is a conversion service. So also people who have today step files or other file formats, they are able to get it in the right format. And here I think we created a very good pipeline and performant importer, so that this process is very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very promising. Also, what I could imagine, because I'm an engineer, I work with CAD models as well. They can be quite big and very complex. What if the glasses or the HoloLens will render it and there are too many polygons? How does the system of you, or how can we overcome this bottleneck of high render costs?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And to be honest, in our first 2 years, we did not really have a good solution for that. It's a major problem of the entire AR/VR community, I would say. So everyone who wants to visualize 3D objects, but also prepare a training use case on a machine, you always work with 3D models which have to be rendered. And the limited performance of mobile devices is definitely a problem. And so usually the limit of the number of polygons on a HoloLens, for example, is at 2 million polygons. And what you had to do so far is that you had to reduce, simplify your 3D model. But on the other side, then you have a loss in quality. And that's what an engineer does not want to have. You want to visualize your model in a high quality because you want to see the details. You want to see the screws and all the details. And that's why we developed a new approach. We outsource the rendering from the limited hardware to external servers. And so the entire application, our application Aries, is no longer running on an XR device. It's now running on an external server, a workstation, or the cloud. And it's streaming the entire application, including the 3D model, to the device. And this allows us to use more GPU and CPU. And this way we are able to visualize 3D CAD models in high quality with all the details and with no extra effort in preparing the data or reducing the data. And I think that was a very important step for us, and is also a very important step for the entire community, because this is something we are able to provide as an SDK to others.
That's so interesting. And that also means, because you're running it on external GPU, that this is basically very fluent. You feel that there's no buffering, no lags whatsoever, right?
Yeah. So when we start to stream something from an external hardware to the client device, we have to take care about the latency. We need low latency to have a stable and comfortable experience, but we are able to achieve that even with the cloud. So let's say we use cloud resources in Frankfurt, and I'm located here in Munich. That's not an issue. The experience, the AR experience, is very, very good, and so I'm definitely happy to do that. And for that, we developed the SDK. I mentioned it before. It's called ISAR, like the river through Munich, and it stands for Interactive Streaming for Augmented Reality. And this is definitely a new approach, and I would say a game changer also for the AR/VR industry.
So let's assume I would be a customer and I come to Holo-Light and I want to test your application, so maybe buy something from you. What questions do I have to ask myself before I even go to you?
I think it's you have to know your problems a little bit, because what we like to do is also start by listening, and we want to understand a little bit how you as a customer work, because we also experienced that in B2B processes, they are never 100% the same. So there's definitely automotive companies work a little bit different than mechanical engineering companies, and also Daimler and BMW, they don't have exactly the same processes. They use different software systems and things like that. So for us, it's important to understand the problem. And here, usually we go into a discussion with the customers, and then we are able to provide a good solution. Obviously, we focus on this engineering use case, so we usually don't go to customers and tell them, hey, we have, I don't know, a viewing use case for museums or things like that, because that's not our focus. But in this engineering world, which is quite big, we are able to identify different use cases together. And so you have to ask yourself, really, what is your problem? How is AR and VR, might this be an opportunity or a solution, a way to go? And then we start the discussion. And then we talk about hardware requirements. We talk about the workflow. We talk about your users. Are they experienced? Are they not so experienced with AR, VR? And how do we have to start this? And then at a certain point, we also have to talk to the IT and implement it in a way that it can be used inside the company.
Yeah, got it. I think it would also make sense, because you're also representing your company sometimes in expos. I think it would make sense, if I'm a potential customer, to come to these expositions and see actually what Holo-Light can provide for me as a customer.
That's absolutely right. I mean, AR and VR are definitely technologies that you have to try. I can make a video and record what I see through my lenses, but it will be a 2D video for you. I have the 3D experience, you have a 2D video. And so it's really, the best thing is to try it. Of course, we have also free trials of our solutions in the stores of the devices. So that's quite simple, and we want to lower the barriers for the people to try it. And because I think it's people are, in the last years, we had to do a lot of technology evangelism. So we have to tell the people not just what our product is, but what is AR and VR in general. And this became much easier as people are now on a better level. They understand the technology a little bit better, the use cases, the potential, and even some of them already have use cases where they really calculated their return on investment and what they actually need. And so the discussion changed a little bit, but we also saw that companies are not on the same level usually. Some of them, they are more into the AR VR topic, and some of them, they just started. And so trying things is definitely a good way to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, what I want to ask is, let's say I'm an interested customer. How could I reach out to you once I'm sure I want to use AR technology for my use cases?
So we are definitely on all the channels you can imagine. So I would say going over LinkedIn and just contacting someone of our team is good. Checking out the website, holo-light.com, is definitely also worth to try. Or we also offer webinars, because we think that, and also our webinars are not like sitting in front of a computer and talking to you. We try to create a discussion between people. We have a lot of examples of other companies. I think it's good to see how do others use the technology. And reach out to me. Visit our webinar next week. I mean, we are definitely open to present this technology to you. And maybe nowadays you have a bit more time because you're not sitting in the office. So take the opportunity to visit our webinars and then check it out.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very promising. And of course, I will put every link down in the description. What I also would be interested in is, where do you see the future of Holo-Light going? Or let's maybe start with this: the future of AR, VR in general, and then of course the future of Holo-Light per se. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would split the future of AR, VR in several steps, because I think in the next 1, 2, maximum 3 years, we will see huge improvements, or we will see more and more companies also using the technology at a larger scale, having not just maybe a department with 1 or 2 people using the technology, but instead having hundreds of people using it. And here we will see more users, and we also saw in the last years a shift from project-oriented work to a more product-focused and more scalable approach. And this way will continue. And there will be also more and more new hardware devices coming to the market. Everybody's waiting for Apple to enter the market, or the biggest consumer company in the world. So there are always rumors about their glasses, and I think as soon as something like this is coming to the market, it will definitely change also the consumer market, and then everybody will be aware of the topic. We also need killer applications, like we say. When the smartphone came to the market, a few very important features were calling somebody, making a picture. That was already worth it, because you did not have to buy a camera. You just had everything in your smartphone. And we need similar things for smart glasses, and things like Google Maps in AR, that you have arrows on the real road showing you the direction. These are things that are very cool and help people to benefit from the technology. And that's why I see also really a different way of how we consume content and how we interact with people. This will definitely change in the next 5 years probably, and then I'm really excited about it. We also have to be or take the responsibility to create a world in where we can use it in a positive way. There have to be rules. Things like advertising, you have to think about how do I manage it. I don't want to have advertising all around me, and so we have to also make some limitations maybe in these directions. But I'm sure that we can do it step by step, and so I'm really looking forward to this.
When it comes, maybe if we take a step back to engineering applications, do you have other use cases maybe? Could we theoretically use your application, AR application for, let's say, computational fluid dynamics or finite element analysis? Would it be possible theoretically?
Yeah, I have an example from the simulation world. We work together with BASF, with the performance materials department. So BASF is one of the biggest chemical companies in the world, and they produce plastics. And usually they have also a simulation service when they sell products to their customers. Which means, let's say you are a company and you want to order chairs fully made of plastic. It was always difficult for the customers to understand how much pressure can I put on the chair before it's crashing, or things like temperature of products. How hot can the plastics become before they melt? Things like that were very difficult for them to communicate, and so we created basically a viewer for simulation results. So I will explain a little bit the workflow. BASF does all the pre-processing, and then they use the software ParaView. And with ParaView, they do post-processing, and they export a file format called VTK, which is an open source file format. And this VTK file, we are able to import the VTK file into our AR application, and then you can see the file. And if the file includes, for example, time steps, you can really see how plastics are breaking. You can see how is the temperature changing, things like that. And you have to imagine it like this nowadays. There's a person from BASF sitting together with a customer, both of them wearing glasses, and they're talking about this virtual simulation result. And this helps the customer to better understand the specifications of the product. And they are using this technology. And this is, I think, a great benefit and a really cool use case.
And as you mentioned, you have this CAD pipeline, right? So it's quite tedious for engineers to always convert stuff to one file format to another. And this is basically, it falls away, basically, right? You don't have to do it.
It is a challenge for us to support all native file imports. And so we had to select a file format that covers or that is used by a lot of people. We talked to BASF and asked them, what do you use? What do you think others are using? We chose the VTK as it's an open source file format, and it's for ParaView users quite good. We're probably not able to cover all the file formats natively today, but this is always a challenge, and we're talking in the end to our customers, what do they need? And if they request the import of a specific file format, we definitely sit down together with them, and then include this into our application. And it is a challenge, but we focus of course on the biggest file formats that are used across several industries.
Yeah. Can you maybe also talk about the pricing model? I would be interested in that. How does the pricing model look like, and what can I expect as a customer in terms of pricing?
Yeah. So I cannot tell you just one price, because our software is there are different versions, I would say. We have a yearly license model for our software. So that's where we started. That was simple to use. Also, the purchasing departments of companies, they kind of know this model, and we now see a little change in the business model, because we're coming from a side where it was clear this is your solution, you can use it for a year, but now we're going also more and more to the cloud, use external resources to render 3D models, and here we have also then pay-per-use models. Because if you're using cloud resources, you only pay when you're using them. And so the business model is also changing. And this is a benefit because you can, you only pay for what you use. This is quite good. And that opens that it makes also easier for people to start, because you do not have to invest a lot of money in the beginning. Here we see definitely this development in this direction. And so also within next year, we will move also a little bit more in this direction.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I see that parallel with cloud-based simulation providers, for example. Only pay for what you use. Is super interesting. What is your mission statement? I mean, you had an idea at the beginning. We talked about this. Why you founded the company? What is your mission statement? What is your vision? Let's say, where do you see Holo-Light in 10 years?
Yeah, so we see ourselves as an enabler for the entire XR community. We provide, on one hand, the software for end users in the engineering sector, but we saw that we developed so many technology components, like the ISAR SDK for streaming XR applications, that we say, okay, our vision is actually even a bit bigger, because with these technology components, we enable new use cases, new business models. And we want to provide this also not just to us for our own use case, but to others. And so we really see ourselves as an enabler for the XR community. And I think that's where we will continue on our way. And that's really also our vision. If you ask, I don't know, any kind of person in 10 years, what kind of technology do you use to do this and that, then the answer should be Holo-Light.
That's perfect. I like it. I like also the enthusiasm behind it. And I really see that you're moving forward also with everything you're currently offering in terms of webinars, videos. I saw some videos, and I will also put links of very interesting engineering applications down in the description so people can have a look at them. Luis, anything else from your side? Maybe some misconceptions people have about AR in general?
I think I know a lot of people who tried, let's say, one application on a trade fair, and they kind of said, okay, this is nothing for me. I don't like it. You have to take a bit more time, I think, to check out things. You cannot just try one solution and say everything is bad. I think most people do a good job out there, and I think it's a task for the entire community to help everybody to understand the technology better. So we talk a lot also to other software providers and work together with the hardware providers. I would definitely like to motivate you to try it, the technology, to think about how to use it, because so many use cases prove that there is a big benefit of the technology. Digitization in general is one of the biggest drivers of our entire world nowadays, and I think you have to check out what's going on, and you can be sure that in 1 month so many things are happening that you have to try once in a while.
Yeah, I'm really optimistic, and I really love that you push this forward. I have to repeat myself again, because I also think a lot of people are kind of evolutionary resistant. They don't want the new technology to be coming, but I think it's very important that we have people like you being visionary and pushing this forward. So I'm really, really proud, but also very excited about this. So with that being said, Luis, thank you so much for your time. And I'm really looking forward maybe to a part 2 where we can talk about more applications where you use Holo-Light, or like the applications that you offer. Anything else from your side that you want to tell the audience?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate the time you take also to talk about such innovative topics, and I think it's really relevant also for the engineers out there. So I'm really happy that I had the chance to talk to you guys out there, and I can definitely recommend to watch this podcast because I like it a lot. And
perfect. Yeah, I'll push it out as fast as I can. No worries about that. So with that being said, Luis, thank you so much. And as I mentioned, hopefully there will be a second part. And take care, good luck, and bye-bye.
Yeah, see you.
See you.